and welcome back to Kardec Radio for Teens. For those of you who don't know, I'm Bia, and Kardec Radio for Teens is a place where teens can come together with other teens to learn about Spiritist teachings and topics in a way that makes more sense to us and is more relatable to us as teenagers in today's society. Each week, we go through the Spirits book together, talking about different topics in the Spirits book in order, and we go page by page, question by question, word by word, to try and first see what the Spirits and Kardec put together for us to learn, and then try and interpret it in a way that we can relate to our daily lives. And we don't have to go and try and change massive things about our lives, but if each week we take one positive thing away and we work on that in our lives, then all those little good things that we do will add up. So hopefully when you're learning, even though something might seem like a very big task, try and work on it a little bit, and that will help. So for weeks now, we've been talking about the law of progress, because we talked about, in the Spirits book already, we've covered a lot of the kind of just intellectual things and just like physical things and why things are the way they are, kind of. And now we're talking about, okay, if we want to get to that perfection, that state of perfection, we have to learn many new good morals and moral things. So it's not only enough to have intellectual intelligence, we want to have moral intelligence too, moral progress as well. And with this moral progress, there's these laws that we've been studying at the end of the Spirits book that are helping us understand these moral progresses that we have to make and help us get on that path. So for the past couple of weeks, we've been talking about the law of progress. And now, summing up the law of progress, now we're having Spiritism's influence on progress. So we've been talking about how different civilizations progress, how different people progress, but now we're going to talk about how Spiritism influences progress. So now we're on to question 799. In what way can Spiritism contribute to progress? So how can Spiritism help progress, help the progress of our society, of our world? And the Spirits answered, by destroying materialism, one of the sores of society, it enables people to comprehend where their true interests lie. Since the future life is no longer veiled by doubt, men and women will better understand what they can ensure their future based on the present. Destroying the prejudice of sect, caste, and color, Spiritism teaches them about the great solidarity that must unite them as brothers and sisters. So as we see here, there's a lot of different things that Spiritism contributes to the progress of society. Spiritism helps, one, by destroying materialism, because we know that focusing on material things of just this life isn't the most important things, because there's so much more out there that isn't going to involve this material money or this material clothes or whatever you have right now. Those things aren't going to matter in the long run. So Spiritism helps us see that these material things that cause a lot of problems in our lives aren't really all that important like we give them importance now. And another thing that Spiritism brings is that it helps us understand one another and helps us break these barriers that we have between people of different social status or different economic status or color. And Spiritism helps us learn that we are all brothers and sisters and we're all like one another. And maybe in one life we were of that different caste, or if that one life we were of that different color. So we learn to appreciate and teach and treat other people as brothers and sisters more. And now on to question 800. Shouldn't we perhaps fear that Spiritism may not be able to defeat humans' indifference and their attachment to material things? So it's saying, okay, I know that Spiritism can help us destroy this materialism, this attachment to material things that we'll grow to learn that they aren't that important. But can Spiritism really change the way everyone thinks about material things? And the Spirits answered, to suppose that any cause could act as some kind of magic spell to transform humans would be to know very little about them. Individual ideas are modified little by little, and generations are needed to completely erase old habits. Transformation, therefore, can only be realized with time, gradually, step by step. With each new generation, a part of the veil has been lifted, and Spiritism has now come to remove it once and for all. However, even if it had the effect of correcting the defects of only one person, it would be a step for that person, and therefore a great good, since that first step would make further ones easier. So what they're saying here is, if you think that Spiritism is just going to come along and obviously change things in 1 second, well, that's not going to happen. We know it's not going to be this miracle that, okay, Spiritism, everyone know it, 1, 2, 3, know that material things aren't important, and everyone's going to believe it. Even us who study Spiritism, we still falsely value some material things, and sometimes just based on the society we live on, sometimes because of ourselves. So even us who know Spiritism haven't been able to completely get past that. So no, it's not going to be a quick thing that 1, 2, 3, everyone, this is the truth and that's it, and everyone believe it. No, it's going to take a long progress, and it's going to take generations to get rid of old habits. So it will take a while, but the little steps that we make will help making further ones. So maybe a little step of someone reading about this, like us today, a little step of us reading about it could make us think about it more in our daily lives, and then we can put it into practice more. So that first step, although it's a small step, could really help in seeing the situation, and maybe you weren't even seeing the situation at all. So maybe just reading about it or hearing about it is opening your eyes to it, and then we can work further from there on this situation. So no, there won't be some great big miracle that happens that everyone's going to believe in Spiritism and follow all of its rules right away. But slowly and surely, this change will happen, and people will start getting more awareness and changing the way they think and the way they live. Question 801. Why haven't the spirits taught from the earliest times what they are teaching today? So why did the spirits only, especially when this book was happening, it was like kind of the first that we were getting this information for the spirits. And so it's been some time since then. But how come only so recently have the spirits starting giving us this information? Like, why didn't they start a long time ago? The spirits start giving this information. Why only now? And the spirits answered, You do not teach children the same things you teach adults, just as you do not give newborns food they cannot digest. Each thing has its own time. The spirits taught many things that humans distorted or did not understand, but which they are now capable of comprehending. Even though their teachings were incomplete, they prepare the soil to receive the seeds which is now about to bear fruit. So, why did the spirits not start telling us this way back when so we could be even further along? It's because we weren't ready for that information yet. We weren't evolved enough to get that information. And if we got that information, say the Spirits book was made 1,000 years earlier, it would be processed completely different and maybe not even respected at all, because people weren't at the capacity to even begin to learn about this. But now at this time, we're ready to start getting these seeds and start learning some of the basics. And no, they're not done teaching us yet. There's still much for us to teach, and just because they taught it to us doesn't mean we've completely learned it and perfected it yet. But they're just now starting to plant the seeds, because now we're finally ready to get this information and comprehend it and put it to practice and put it to good use. So we're finally at that stage. So that's why they couldn't do it before, because we weren't ready before for this information. But now we're ready. So now if we're ready, we should start acting on it and taking advantage of what we have in front of us. Question 802. Since Spiritism must mark a step in the progress of humankind, why don't the spirits speed up this progress through manifestations that are so widespread and patent that they could lead the most incredulous to believe. So, they're saying here, so if we're trying to spread Spiritism, and since Spiritism can help people progress, the society progress, why aren't we spreading it faster? Why aren't the spirits spreading it faster? Why don't they perform these miracles all over the place so that everyone just starts believing it all at one time? Like, why is this such a slow progress? And the spirits answered, "You desire miracles, but God has sown so-called miracles by the handful right under your feet. Yet you still have people who deny them. Did Christ himself convince his contemporaries by the wonders he performed? Even today, don't you see those who deny the most obvious facts occurring under their very eyes? Aren't there those who would not believe it even if they did see them? No, it's not by miracles that God guides humankind. Out of divine goodness, God wishes to leave it in the merit of being convinced through reason." So basically what they're saying is, so we want the spirits to perform these miracles. Say, if everyone saw the turning tables, or if everyone even saw spirits or saw Jesus or something miraculous, if everyone saw this, everyone would instantly believe it. But even still, think about it. Think about those people who saw Jesus, all Jesus did, and they still didn't believe it. They saw it with their own eyes. Or even today, people who don't believe it. Or even think about people today who, some people don't believe that there were ever dinosaurs, or some people don't believe that we ever made it to the moon, or that the earth is round. So there's some things that, even with all the facts, people still don't believe it. So imagine if these miracles happened, just because they happened, and some people might believe it, but not everyone. A lot of people will still continue to ignore it. So what God wants us to do is, God wants us to find it and believe in it through reason. He wants us to justify it, because God and the spirits, they aren't telling you, okay, this is what you have to believe right now, do this and this and this. God's letting us find out for ourselves what we think is right and reason through it ourselves so that we truly believe it. We're not just thinking this because someone else is thinking it. We're thinking it and reacting to it and following this doctrine because we truly believe in it. So it's about us coming to this conclusion on our own, not it being forced upon us. And that's also why we don't want to force Spiritism on other people, because we don't want to just force it and say, you have to think like this. No, you can, if you study it, that's great. And then if you think it makes sense and it justifies and reasons with you well, then that's great. And then you can study it further. But sometimes not everyone is ready for that. Not everyone's at the same step of progress as we are. Rather, they can be more evolved or less evolved than us. So now we've made it to the next chapter, which is about another law and a law of nature, and this law is the law of equality. And so the first section is natural equality. Question 803. Are all people equal before God? So that's a quite simple question. To God, are all people equal? All is the key word there. And the Spirit said, yes. All tend toward the same goal. God has made the divine law for everyone. You often say, the sun shines the same on everyone, and you thereby state a greater and more general truth than you might think. So yes, God sees us all the same. We are all God's children, and God sees us all the same, and the divine laws are all for us, and we all have the same potential as one another. And what the Spirit said here is we have this common thing that the sun shines the same for everyone. So right, no matter where you are on earth, the sun will shine the same on you as for someone else. So this is kind of the same. God's light is going to shine on us the same, because we all have the same potential, no matter how different we may seem on the outside. And then Allan Kardec puts his own comment in, and he says, all are subject to the same laws of nature. All are born with the same fragility. All are subject to the same sufferings. the bodies of rich decompose like the bodies of the poor. Therefore, God has not granted a natural superiority to anyone, either by birth or by death. All are equal before God. So, the laws, the natural laws, apply to everyone. And everyone's born with the same fragility. And although someone might have one thing that you don't, you might have something that they don't, because of how far you are in your progress and how evolved you are. But we are all created the same way, simple and ignorant. And like they say here, the people who are rich, they're gonna die and their material bodies are gonna decompose the same way that the poor do, because that's a material thing. Money's a material thing, and these corporeal bodies we have, it's very material. What matters is what we're learning on the inside, and we all have the same potential to learn and get to that same level. So all are equal in God's eyes. So now we're on to the next section of this chapter, and this one's titled The Inequality of Aptitudes. So we're talking about how come some people have different things that they're able to do or things that they're not able to do. How come they're different? So, question 804. Why hasn't God endowed everyone with the same aptitudes? So why doesn't everyone have the same ability to do everything? Well, how come some people can't walk while others can, or some people can't speak properly while others can? And the spirits answered, God has created all spirits equal, but each one of them has lived over a longer or shorter amount of time, and has consequently developed more or fewer aptitudes. The difference lies in the degree of experience and volition, their free will, by which some advance more rapidly, endowing them a wide range of aptitudes. A medley of aptitudes is necessary so that all may contribute to the divine of providence, within the limits of the development of their physical and intellectual powers. What one cannot do, another does, and so all ends up having their useful function. Furthermore, since all worlds are united in solidarity, it is necessary for the inhabitants of more highly evolved worlds, most of which were created well before yours, to come and live here in order to set an example for you. So, yes, we were all created equal, but we were created at different times. We were all created equal when we were created, but some of us have lived for longer amounts of time, and not in just this world, but not in just this existence, but in total, in all of our existences. Some people have gone through more existences, so therefore they've learned more and they've gained more knowledge. While some of us might have not lived as many. We might be a relatively new spirit, a relatively young baby spirit, that we haven't experienced as many reincarnations and haven't learned as many things. So maybe that's why we're at different levels than other people. And on top of that, some of us, because we are learning to our own experience and our own free will, so we have the right to choose what we're going to work on and what we're going to do. And some people, they pick up on stuff and they work on stuff more quickly, and they want to get through these obstacles, and they tackle them and they keep going and kind of powering through all these obstacles and hurdles. But some people might not go so fast, or they might deviate a little from the right path. So maybe that's why also that person is not as evolved, or someone is more evolved, because maybe they went straight to the point and they were getting through all these obstacles, while another person kind of got a little stuck. But, and a third point that they bring out is that we create this harmony in, let's think about just our world, and even in just our society and in just our school. Think about in our school. If everyone was at the same stage, then only everyone understood English, but no one knew math or science or social studies. So how are we ever going to learn math and science and social studies if no one knows it? But the way our schools do work, and the ways our society works and our world works, is we have people that are good at math, or people that are good at science, people good at English, people good at social studies, people good at art, music, gym, people that are good at different things, And so then we can put all those things together and create this community that's well-rounded and has lots of those different things that we can now put together and learn more from. So it's important for us to be at different stages so that we can learn from one another and have these different things around us instead of just all focusing on one thing. And then lastly, they also mentioned how there are worlds, so we're just thinking about our world, Earth, but there are worlds that are more evolved than ours. So even if we see people on our Earth that are more evolved, there's people that are even more evolved on that, and sometimes these more evolved spirits, like let's say geniuses, or even Jesus who was perfect, Jesus incarnated. He didn't reincarnate because he wasn't trying to go through trials. He was already at perfection. So he just incarnated on Earth to help us progress further and learn some things that we weren't quite getting. So he came to help us and move forward. So yeah, he was a very evolved spirit and much more evolved than any of us on Earth. But he set that example for us. So that's another reason why we might see some people that bring some higher intelligence to us, because they're there to help us move along. It's not that they were created different or God blessed them with this intelligence and didn't give any of that intelligence to us. No, it's they've learned and they've gone through this and they've perfected that part, so they came to help us with that. So we were all created equal, but we all go on our own different paths, and those paths make us different, and it's for the better that we have different people to look at and interact at and learn with. Question 805. In passing from a more evolved world to a lesser one, does the spirit keep all of its acquired faculties intact? So what they're saying here is, just like we were talking about with Jesus, or even just a spirit who was more evolved, but not completely at perfection yet. Like if we think of a spirit like Mother Teresa, she wasn't completely at perfection yet, but she is very much more evolved than we are. So if she came down to our world, our planet, to help us, does she still have all of her faculties? So do these spirits who come from these higher evolved worlds, do they still keep all those things that they had? All that knowledge that they had? And the spirits answered, yes. We have already told you that the spirit who has progressed cannot regress. In its spirit state, it may choose a coarser envelope or a more precautious position than the previous one, but always to serve it as a lesson and to help it progress. So, yes, we're never gonna go backwards. Even for us, there are planets who are less evolved than us. If we went to one of those less evolved planets, we wouldn't lose what we have. We still have that within us. But maybe to challenge ourselves and to help us progress, we'll say, okay, I want to not remember as much stuff so I can be challenged to progress and learn something new. So yes, we might not remember in that existence, but we still have that knowledge with us. No matter what world we're in, whatever we've learned, we gained, and that's ours to keep. And then Allan Kardec puts his own comment in it, and he says, thus, the diversity of aptitudes among individuals is not related to the innermost nature of their creation, but to the degree of perfection they have reached as spirits. God has not, therefore, created an inequality of faculties, but has permitted the different degree of development to remain in contact with one another, so that the more advanced may help the more backward to progress, and also so that in needing one another, all persons may understand the law of charity that should unite them. So, it's not that God didn't create us equal. God did create us equal. We are all created equal, but God gave us the right, the ability to learn at different rates, to develop at different rates at our own rate, because it's our free will. We choose how we're going to develop and progress. So God gave us this ability to go on our own and kind of course He's guiding us, but go on our own with our own free will and progress as we may. So because of this, people are at different rates and people have learned different things. Maybe not in a bad way, but maybe someone studied one thing while you started studying at a different thing. So maybe that person knows really good math, but you know really well English grammar. So it doesn't make you that worse or better. It just makes you different in what you've learned because you haven't learned the opposite yet. But having these people who are different from us help us to learn how to work together and maybe combine skills and put it together in a way that you couldn't if you only knew English or if you only knew math. So this helps us unite ourselves because even besides our differences, we still want to unite and help each other. So that's where we'll leave off today, and next week we'll pick up talking more about inequalities, about social inequalities and wealth inequalities, and more about how this plays a role in our daily lives. And hopefully you guys can find something to work on throughout this week and throughout our lives, really, something positive to work on from what we've read, because if we keep working on these little things, it will amount to something great. So before we leave off today, I'd like to read our message from the Daily Book of Positive Quotations by Linda Picone for today's date, June 5th. This one's titled, Finding God. The search for God is like riding around on an ox, hunting for the ox. A Buddhist proverb. We look far and wide for the answer to life's big questions, when they may be much closer to us than we realize. How can we open our eyes to the ox we're riding on? Today I will think about what is important in my life. But first, I will put on my philosophical reading glasses so that I can see what is right before my eyes. I'd also like to remind you guys all of the first International Youth Spiritist Weekend we're having in Washington, D.C., July 6th through 8th, which is a Friday to Sunday. And it's going to be a great time for us Spiritist teens to come together and learn and grow. And just like we do here at Kardec Radio for Teens, we're going to be in person learning about Spiritist teachings and topics and putting it together in workshops. And we're going to do a charity event as well. And it's going to be a really fun time, and I hope you guys can all make it. So if you want more information, go to kardecradio.com or email me at kardecradioforteens@gmail.com, and I'll give you all the information about the hotel. There's a competition for getting a free hotel room for the weekend, so all that information's on the website, and also I can email it to you. I'm Bia, and this has been Kardec Radio for Teens. Thank you all for listening. This has been Kardec Radio for Teens. Thank you all for listening.